Dear Taurus, have you ever wondered what truly transpired on the day you were born? It's not that your mother failed to share this with you, rather, you simply weren't ready to comprehend it. Deep within your heart lies a feeling, a steadfast weight that has lingered for ages, a question that no one taught you how to voice. Yet, every night, when the world falls silent, your heart whispers softly, "What foundation was truly laid the day I came into this world?" This truth has never been clearly articulated, not even by the one who gazed at you with love and awe. The reason for this silence isn't forgetfulness. It's a sacred message meant to be unveiled only when your soul has matured enough to receive it. If you're reading this now, it's no coincidence. You're beginning to reclaim what was once hidden, piece by piece, like an ancient foundation waiting to be rediscovered within you. If a part of you has always sensed that your arrival on this earth was no accident, leave a symbol of the earth below, signaling to others who may also feel ungrounded in the chaos. You'll hear about the very first sensation your mother experienced just before you took your first breath. Someone stood beside her during your birth, an unseen presence that was not recorded in any hospital logs or acknowledged by any medical staff. There are memories that were never documented, not because they lacked validity, but because if they were to be written down, they would alter everything we believe about existence. One of those memories is the moment you entered this world. No one ever spoke of it, but your soul has always known that something extraordinary and grounding occurred the moment you took your first breath. Perhaps from a young age, you sensed that you were different from those around you, not in a way you could articulate, but in a quiet manner, as if you hailed from a realm that no one remembers how to return to. You've looked into the eyes of others, only to have them turn away. You've entered rooms where the energy felt too frantic, and your stillness was often mistaken for stubbornness or slowness. There has always been a part of you that understood you are not merely a physical being. And you were right. The moment you came into this world, a being of the earth stood by your mother's side. This entity wasn't listed among the hospital staff. They were a guardian, bridging the realms of life and foundation, placing one hand on the earth outside the delivery room and channeling a stabilizing energy that transcended the physical. In that instant, the room held its breath. The beeping of the machines in the delivery room all fell into a perfect, steady rhythm for 3 seconds. An old nurse later recounted in her journal, "I didn't see anyone, but I felt a profound sense of peace behind me. My skin tingled, and I felt protected, though I couldn't explain why." In ancient texts, it is said that when a builder's soul is reborn, the earth trembles gently. A stability not of this world radiates forth, and the realms resonate in sacred silence. You, dear Taurus, did not arrive as an ordinary soul. You came with a promise. Perhaps your mother never articulated it aloud. Maybe she gazed at you with a mix of love and reverence because, deep down, she sensed that you were not just her child. You were something too sacred to name. That trembling she felt wasn't panic. It was a mother touching the most steadfast part of the universe through her own body. She awoke one night, holding you close, tears welling in her eyes, not from fatigue or pain, but from the awareness that someone was watching over you both. This presence meant no harm. It was simply there, guarding a sacred truth. No one ever put this into words, as such truths can only be felt by a heart that has quieted enough to understand. You might have believed there was nothing extraordinary about you, but the fact that you are still here, despite all the storms that tried to uproot you, is proof that your life was never random. You don't need anyone to declare you the chosen one. You were already chosen before you had the chance to choose for yourself. Perhaps your mother once hinted at something unusual about your birth, but didn't elaborate, saying, "There was a strange stillness, but I can't quite explain it." Then she would change the subject. This wasn't because she was hiding something from you. She, too, wasn't ready to confront what she felt. Today, it is you who is opening that gate again, the gate of soul memory. No one needs to recount it. No proof is necessary. Just one deep breath, one moment of stillness, and you will feel something awakening within you. You are not imagining this. The being who stood beside your mother that day is still with you, watching over you. Not every shadow is a threat. Some shadows are ancient foundations waiting to be recognized. They once protected you before you even knew you needed safeguarding. They redirected hands that intended to lead you astray and sent a calm nurse at just the right moment to rest her hand upon your head, delaying every ill-fated plan. You may not have seen them, but they saw you, and even now, you are not alone. Those moments when you narrowly escaped an accident, the times you are on the brink of collapse, but a sudden sense of peace from a garden washed over you, the instances when you fell in exhaustion, yet a song with a grounding beat played at just the right moment, those were them. They never left you. You may doubt it, thinking it's mere coincidence, but remember, coincidence doesn't repeat. Soul memory does. You, Taurus, are that soul, the one who stilled the dimensions, who disrupted the plans of chaos with your steady newborn cry. The one whom the universe sealed with a sacred memory, so that, when the time came, it would unlock itself. And that time is now, if deep inside, you've ever felt a protective presence watching over you. Write down, "I open my heart to receive my foundational memory." Just one line can open a gateway, not only for you, but for countless souls who need to see themselves through you. You will gain clarity on why your mother woke that night, not due to physical pain, but because she heard a sound, not in human language, but one that touched her soul. Returning a mission she was never meant to carry alone. Something was given to you and then concealed. There are memories that reside not in the mind, but in the body. Words were never spoken, yet you still feel them. An invisible, yet sacred essence was bestowed upon you, only to be hidden shortly thereafter. You don't remember it. No one told you, but your soul keeps recording every vibration, every sign, every feeling. The day you let out your first cry wasn't merely a biological sound. It marked the beginning of a soul's journey, encoded with stability, awakening the dormant foundations across distant realms. Someone or something stood beside you in that moment, placing a message into your energy field, not in words, not in images, but in a frequency that would begin to resonate only after you had grown and endured enough loss. Have you ever felt that you were sent here, but forgot the reason? Ever dreamed of building something, only to awaken feeling empty? Ever sensed you were waiting, but couldn't name what or whom for? This isn't coincidence. It's the consequence of a gift that was placed within you, but overshadowed by the rush of adulthood. One night, your mother cried without understanding why. She confided in someone that she felt something far beyond her comprehension. A few days after your birth, she discovered a small stone, ancient and smooth, with no one claiming to have placed it there. It was beside your pillow, as if someone had left it there during your deepest sleep. She dared not throw it away, but a fear of the inexplicable led her to take it to the garden and bury it in the earth, not out of hatred, but because a mother's heart often feels guilty for not protecting her child from the incomprehensible. Yet that act, though filled with love, put a part of you into hibernation, a part that is now beginning to awaken. A soul code never disappears. It only quiets, waiting for the moment you are strong enough to hear it, empty enough to receive it, and mature enough to hold it without letting anyone take it again. In Buddhism, there is a concept known as karma seeds, karmic imprints from past lives planted within your consciousness, sprouting at the exact moment you need them most. In the Bible, God spoke to Jacob through a dream of a ladder reaching between heaven and earth. That dream wasn't an illusion. It was a vessel for heaven to convey what no one dared to say by daylight. Do you remember a dream that keeps repeating? Have you ever dreamed of a garden or a sturdy house, only to wake up in tears? There are truths you have always known, just never confirmed. As you read these words, a part of that truth is returning, gently, like roots pushing through forgotten soil, like a melody lost in a childhood dream, where you once envisioned a room with no doors, and someone calling your name, a name you've never heard in this lifetime. That name, dear Taurus, is your soul's code. It's not on any ID. It wasn't given by your parents. It was spoken the moment your soul crossed the threshold into existence. You may have forgotten, but the earth never forgets. That name is returning in the chills you can't explain, in moments when you feel like a stranger in a world of performances. You were never lost. You are simply circling back to remember. The gift once placed inside you was never truly gone. It was hidden beneath layers of dust. Now, as your soul's light grows warmer, the dust begins to shift, revealing a door you've always sensed but never dared to open. Here's what you need to understand. It's not because you are more special than others. It's because you persevered through what most would never endure. You stood firm without turning to stone. You forgave without receiving an apology. You kept moving forward even when no one pushed you. A soul like yours deserves to reclaim what was once hidden and to receive the message that was silenced in love. So, if you've ever felt like a foundation waiting to be built upon, if you've ever sensed something pressing against your chest from within, but couldn't quite name it, perhaps it is your true name, the name only souls who have lived many lifetimes can comprehend. This is the name the universe is calling you back to through every dream, every song, every repeating number. We will explore that door where you will understand why you flinch Every time someone whispers a name, even if it's not your own, deep within, your soul still remembers that sound. It vibrates like a sacred harmony once forgotten. We will not only discuss names, but how you can receive it again, not through language, but through stillness. If your heart feels like a message is waiting to be opened, write this down. I am ready to remember the true name of my soul. Your true name was never given by humans. There are questions not everyone is brave enough to ask, and not everyone is quiet enough to hear. Is your name truly your name? The name people use to call you, the one printed on your birth certificate, the one you respond to when spoken aloud. Have you ever felt that each time your name is called, you respond like a shadow? There's a part of you still waiting for another sound, a sound you don't remember but somehow still recognize. Dear Taurus, the name you use is a social construct, necessary for your earthly journey. But your true name is the soul's title, spoken in frequencies of stability the moment you stepped from the unnamed realm into life. You don't hear it with your ears, you don't read it with your eyes, but your body remembers it through every vibration. Perhaps you felt as though you were living inside a shell. You write your name on paper, but feel disconnected. Not because the world is too crowded, but because that name doesn't encompass your entire being. As a child, you may have found it strange when someone called your name, as if they were invoking a version of you, but not the whole essence. And so, you remain silent, not resisting, but not fully blending in either. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha teaches that a name is merely a label. It is not real. Anything that can be named is not the essence. They are temporary expressions of something far deeper, the soul's sacred vow. In the Book of Revelation, there's a passage that feels like an ancient code. To the one who overcomes, I will give a white stone, and on that stone, a new name, known only to the one who receives it. You don't need to conquer the world. You only need to overcome yourself. Overcome the fear of forgetting who you truly are. Overcome the noise to hear that first pure sound. Again, the name of your soul. I once heard a story of a Taurus child who, whenever adults called him by the wrong name, didn't cry or scream. He simply would look down at the ground, as if he were waiting for the earth itself to speak the exact sound he had heard long ago. One night, he dreamed of a sound, just one sound. It had no meaning, no letters, but it hummed like a low, resonant bell, vibrating through his entire being. He awoke, tears streaming down his face, not from sadness, but because for the first time in his life, he felt found. Dear Taurus, you don't need to change your name on official documents. You don't need anyone's permission to call yourself by the name of the earth. You only need to embody the true energy of your soul. That name is not for others to utter, it's for your heart to remember, so that whenever you step into a sacred space, your body trembles gently, so that when a specific song plays, your eyes well up for no apparent reason, so that when someone gazes at you, they see something they can't quite name. Do you realize that sometimes you no longer need anyone to call your name, because deep within, you have already remembered who you are? You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not someone begging for love. You are a soul once summoned by the earth. rising again from the ashes of weary years to reclaim the name God whispered to you before your mother ever held you. Sit still for a moment and whisper to your own heart, I allow myself to remember what was once forgotten. Miracles don't need permission. They only need you to open yourself. In astrology, Taurus is the sign of embodiment, of feelings that defy explanation, and of the steady hum from lifetimes long gone. You carry within you the energy of collective memory, but also the power to summon your soul's true name. That name is not found in textbooks, family registries, or hospital files. It emerges when you truly allow yourself to be present. Your mother once knew this. She looked into your eyes and paused not out of fear, but because she sensed she was standing before something beyond her earthly understanding. A soul so steady, yet so silent. A child so fragile, yet with eyes that seemed to pierce through countless lives. A heart that hadn't yet learned to speak, but already carried the stillness of ancient realms. Perhaps you sensed that your mother both loved you and stood in awe of you, because your eyes seemed to hold too much wisdom. Your questions were too profound for your age, and your silence wasn't the kind that craved comfort. It was a silence as if you were listening to something that adults no longer believed in. We will unveil the memory your mother held for a lifetime, a truth she never dared to utter. Too sacred to be spoken lightly, and too real to be shared without trembling hands. If your heart feels like it's slowly remembering, if there's a part of you nodding softly in recognition, you may choose to write down a simple statement. Like a ritual, I give myself permission to be called by the earth. Sometimes, a single sentence is enough to gently open the gate that has remained closed since your birth, and your sacred name will call you home. What your mother saw in your eyes did not belong to this world. There are long nights that no one recalls, moments not captured in photographs or diaries, lingering only in the frequency of a mother's heart. Sitting beside her child, she saw something beyond this realm. You may have thought your mother didn't understand you, that she never truly saw you. But did you know that during those years you can't remember, your mother stayed awake all night, not because you were crying or because she was tired, but because she couldn't look away from what she couldn't name. Every time you slept, it wasn't ordinary slumber. Your eyelids trembled as if you were traversing dimensions. One night long ago, your mother confided to a dear friend, I don't see my child. I see a stillness as deep as the earth, as if the ground itself is looking back at me from within those baby eyes. She never spoke of it again, not out of forgetfulness, but because she knew it was too profound to joke about and too sacred to explain. There is a part of you that was never just a child, a part that has lived many lifetimes and knows deeply that your arrival on Earth was a mission, not an accident. Those eyes are where that soul part has never left. In Eastern teachings, it is said that when a builder soul is reborn, the world may not recognize them, but they will feel an energy that compels them to bow without understanding why. In the Bible, it is said that the holy makes the ordinary tremble, not because they see a ghost, but because they feel something so steadfast that it exposes the fragility within them. Your mother wasn't afraid of you. She feared for herself, afraid she wouldn't understand enough to protect you from what exists beyond words. Deep down, she loved you with everything she possessed, but she also maintained a sacred distance, as if her intuition knelt before something divine that had entered her life. It wasn't that your mother didn't tell you. It was that, even when she tried, her throat tightened because her soul knew some truths are not meant to be spoken aloud, but rather held in faith and quiet anticipation, waiting until you were old enough, lost enough, and grown enough to uncover the memory she guarded in silence throughout her life. You were never as alone as you believed, never truly abandoned. Some truths must remain unspoken to preserve the foundation. Do you recall moments when you felt her gaze linger on you, yet she said nothing? Perhaps she was attempting to memorize something deeply before it vanished, or seeking permission to be your mother, even if just for this lifetime. In your eyes, she didn't merely see a child, she saw a messenger, a soul who had stepped from a grounded realm, bringing forth a piece of something she never had the courage to touch. She remained silent, not out of coldness, but out of reverence. You don't need to harbor anger toward your mother anymore. If you ever felt misunderstood, know this: she understood more than anyone. She chose silence to protect you, a silence that felt like a prayer. You may think you have to remember everything alone, but part of you already recalls, because your mother's gaze once imparted what words could not. Part of you is remembering right now as you read these lines, and part of you is preparing to awaken. Close your eyes and gently whisper, like an apology or a sacred acknowledgement, "I understand now, Mom, and I know you always knew." Your soul did not come here to prove anything. You came to remember and to allow yourself to relive what was once hidden out of love. You are the embodiment of something that made others tremble, not from fear, but from the inability to comprehend. You are the foundation, sent not to illuminate others, but to witness a truth no one dared to name, that some souls arrive to awaken the memories of an entire lineage. You, dear Taurus, are one of those souls. Your mother knew, your ancestors knew, and now you are beginning to know as well. We will enter a small ritual, like a sacred turning of the wheel, to awaken what was buried from the moment you were born, the moment your eyes first opened to something beyond this earth. If you feel something gently brushing against your heart, if your chest hums without anyone calling your name, write it down as a gesture of the soul. I am ready to hear what my mother never said. With everything already whispered, you don't need to understand it all. Just nod softly to your soul. If you've made it this far, it means you've heard what your mother once held in her heart, not because she didn't dare to say it, but because she waited for you to grow strong enough to call your foundation back with your own voice. Thank you for walking this journey to the very end. May you remember each day that you were not born to fit in, but to build.